Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, SST. Okay, so today I'm proud to have with me Mr. Sulhan Juman. Okay, to talk to us about this whole idea about problem solving. Okay, so maybe Mr. Sulhan, would you like to introduce yourself and maybe give a brief overview of what you do for a living and things like
Okay.
that?
Hi, my name is Sulhan. I'm from Mobi Studios. So we are actually a design and technology business, and we actually work in building solutions and solving problems for customers. So we have customers coming to us with different set of problems, and we will just walk through with them through all the design process and understand what's the problem and so on. Right. So all this stuff is actually basically things that I actually gathered during my past career in HP. I used to be working in HP as an electrical engineer. So I work in product development and making printers, cameras, and business printers, inkjet printers, and so on.
Okay, nice to hear that, Mr. Sulhan. Okay,
Yeah.
so from if your transition from an electrical engineer in Hewlett Packard HP, and then now you are like setting up your own design, consultancies to do it, all that. So you must have come across a lot of challenges, right, along the way, right? Problems, challenges, and probably you probably have solved like, if not all, most of them. So maybe for the benefit of our change makers, SST students over here, would there be like one moment, maybe just one, or maybe more if you can spare the time, maybe just one moment, a very significant moment that you think you would like to share with the students, how you go, what is the challenge, what is the problem that you face, and how you overcome them.
Okay. So I personally work with digital cameras. I love photography. So I mean, as per normal, when you're interested in something, your workplace will put you in charge of something that's related to it. So I actually was in charge of digital cameras. Back then, HP was building digital cameras for the US market. So there was a problem that was actually brought back to me, right, to my attention. If this is actually those small digital cameras that you can turn on, that the lens will come out and go in, this kind of cameras. So back then, those cameras are quite normal and quite affordable by most people. And what we had problem is these cameras are coming back from the field with the lens being the broke. Basically, the lens get.
Oh dear. Okay.
Yeah, the lens actually get dislodged. But most of these products, when they are built, they are actually designed and being actually dropped at a certain height to make sure it actually can withstand a certain height.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So one of the cameras that we had, one of the specification is to be able to be dropped at a height of about close to 1 meter.
Okay.
So it's quite interesting that when the lens came back to me when we was doing the investigation, right? It was actually found that all these lenses, all these cameras, looks like it is actually usually when you drop right at a certain height, which is design height, the lens will fix back on its own.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's just because of the force that the weight of the camera hitting the ground, the bouncing of the camera itself, it will dislodge and it will fix itself.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So what happens was this set of cameras that I got on hand, interestingly, all had the same failure mode, right?
Okay.
So what I did as investigation, because I was in charge of lens, basically, I was in charge of lens mechanism as an electromechanical kind of expert back then. So I had to actually open up and observe the movements and everything. So we found that actually the main reason is actually when you drop the camera lower than the height of 50 centimeters, which is still within the 1 meter design height, but because you drop it lower than the 50 centimeters, it doesn't have enough force to fix back.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
It's very interesting. So I actually did an investigation and look at the use case, the use model of who use the cameras. So I found out that the user of the camera are basically young kids. So young kids which are shorter, and if you hang the camera on a strap, and the camera is actually dangling below 50 centimeters.
I see.
Right? And plus the fact that their hands are small, the strap actually drops on their arm, and the camera goes on the floor. Yeah.
So is it like a particular make of camera, or is it like from a particular country, or model?
In this case, the model was actually US market.
Okay.
Right. So US market, a lot of people likes to take photos, cameras, and everything. Right, back then there's mobile phones not yet up the in thing, right? So we found that because of younger people, they hold the camera, so the camera actually dropped at a certain height instead of the design height, because as you drop, you have lesser force to fix it back. So with this, I actually investigated and found that the fix is actually related to a mechanical part which needs to be reinforced and redesigned. So I had the chance to actually go to Japan and sit in front of one of the, because the lens are actually supplied by the lens companies in
Japan.
Yeah. So I had the chance to actually sit down in front of the mechanical engineers and actually explain the problem. And yeah, so this is where I think it's a very valuable example of a problem which actually it actually helps you resolve a problem which is hidden. Right?
Okay.
Yeah.
So as you were like trying, as you keep with that conclusion of that 50 centimeters thing, what ideas came running to your head as you are like trying to find like the root cause, the root problem of the thing that you are facing?
So based on actually based on basic science and physics. So basically, if your kind of the mass itself is a fixed mass, but you drop it at a different height, right? You actually have a different force kind of a profile. So so because of its lower height, because the camera is dangling now at lower. Imagine a 5-year-old girl carrying the camera is now hanging lower, at about maybe 20-30 centimeters with the strap. So these are the things where you have to have some imagination of what could happen and everything, because at the end of the day, right, the whole value is not what you design but what the user uses it for.
So I guess that's your aha moment. We didn't cater to this demographic of users. We kind of like only think that it's like 1 meter, and so there's this difference between technical specification and how the user uses it.
Exactly. And best interestingly, the drop, because usually when you manufacture some things, they will take some samples from the market and they go to the quality department to get tested, right? So they will do a certain drop test at a certain height. But interestingly, the height that they drop is above the threshold. So they can't find the problem because the drop height is actually does not cover the use case.
So maybe you can continue on, like for example, when you mentioned the problem, or when you explained the problem to the Japanese engineers, what was the reaction and how did they react to it?
Okay, as you understand the way the different Japanese culture is, they never say yes in front of you, right? So throughout the meeting, all of the main engineers the design engineers are in front of me, and it is the moment of silence. Ooh. And when they tell you that can we take a leave for a moment, that means all of them will get out of the room, right? Then they will come back and they will agree on the change or if whatever. So they will not say then they will have to go out. They have to like maybe cool off something.
It's very interesting because you also bring in this idea of a culture.
Yes.
Cultural sensitivity, especially working with other engineers or other teammates from other countries. So I think, which is something I think kids nowadays, they will be facing in 10, definitely. 15, 20 years time. I mean, the world is getting global and things like that. So I think maybe another thing, I'm sure you face some setbacks or failures in inverted commas, right? Along the way, as you're trying to uncover the challenge and all that. So how do you deal with them? It's like,
so I think at the end of the day is when you actually doing this kind of problem solving and effort and everything. It's all about writing it down, documenting it as you go, right? So I think the most important culture in makers, a maker's culture, is you document things as you go. So even though it's a failure, you know that you document it, you have tested, and you understand what's the cause of the failure. Right. Sometimes the solution might not be immediate, but the solution might be after you solve another problem.
This is how do you think your own learning experiences I think in the past, be it in school or be it in your previous jobs and things like that, guided or helped you in your journey to find either the solution to the problem that you just faced or problems that you are have been facing the last few years.
Okay, I was quite fortunate to be the first batch of design and technology students in Singapore.
Oh,
So
D&D,
I was the
okay.
first pioneer batch actually. So
Wow.
in that, I mean, not many people understand at that point of time as a young kid in secondary school. I mean, maybe I was able to understand what is problem solving, and I was actually able to still I use the same workflow today, which I learned when I was in secondary school, right? And now they call it design thinking, right? And back then they don't have this design thinking. Right, design thinking is only something which has been coined quite recently, right? By MIT. But I mean, when I was in school, we actually used this short form called PRIME, PRIME. So it's problem, research, idea, making, evaluation. So that is actually the framework that I use till today.
And it still works for you, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So it's something which I feel that even now when I conduct like little workshops for youth and everything, I will just instill to them with Prime, No, this is
Cool.
yeah.
So what are you currently busy with, Mr. Sulhan?
Actually, we just got a project with Bukit Timah Railway Station.
Oh,
So we're actually doing an interactive hardware solution for them. So where you can actually work, I mean, experience, how the train mechanism and this kind of stuff. So it's a mix, it's a multidiscipline thing. So it has electronics part of it, it has a mechanical part of it, a 3D printing part of it. Yeah, so that makes things interesting actually.
Oh, okay. So bonus question. Okay, I think because now that you have set up your own company, I mean, in the past you were like working for HP and that.
Yeah.
So what were some of the changes that you feel that you need to adopt, okay, in order to continue on in this problem solving journey? But now with your own company.
I think at the end of the day is building up the problem solving culture, right, from the bottom. That means the employees needs to understand, like, what is the problem, So for me, something which I get advice from when I was in secondary 2, right, from my form teacher.
Wow.
Right,
Okay.
till today, I remember, right, what she said to me is that you need to know what you don't know. Right. So once you're able to define what you don't know, then you know where to search.
Cool. Yes. Okay. Maybe just one last question, Mr. Sulhan. Okay. If there's like one piece of advice, or maybe even more, that you would like to pass on to the Sec 2 students going through this InnoFest event, what will it be?
Okay, I have two actually. One, as I said just now, is to document everything that you do, right? To have a little book. I still keep my own personal journal. Right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I have it for the last 9-10 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's where you build up your knowledge. You actually write it down, and you can have. Sometimes you can't remember everything, but you can flip back and build ideas on that. And that's the first advice, right? The second advice is actually to use the right communication, especially when you work in a group, in a team, right? So you can use, like, sometimes you don't need to go so deep, you go simply as numbers and color codings are actually very good, right? So if you have maybe something that you have 5 different blocks of different ideas, you can put 5 different colors. So this actually help people to visually understand and helps your communication, especially now people do it on Zoom, right? You might say something, but people's eyes are looking at different things. So using things like numbers, colors, any annotations and everything to improve your communication, especially when you do in a team, that would definitely help you to get things going faster and solve problems faster.
Okay, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. The Change Makers Sec 2. Okay, the two good advice that Mr. Sulhan has mentioned. Okay, one is about having this practice of documenting things. Now, it did not necessarily be just about your problem-solving journey. It could be your notes. It could be the things that you experience. It could also be, for example, like your experiences in your CCA. You think that it was a very good training session on one day, and then another session it becomes very sucky. It's good to document all these things. I think this is something that you can bring back after this interview. And then I also like the second part of Mr. Sulhan's advice about this idea about communicating. So, and this is something that I think the teachers in the Change Maker program has always been wanting the students to do, to adopt. Okay, now you don't need to come up with fanciful graphics or a lot of information, sometimes bite-sized information using colors, just use simple fonts and things like that will be useful. I guess at the end of the day, it's also about your intended audiences, right? I think if your intended audiences are more mindful about graphics and all that, so it could be something that you might want to adopt. Whereas if, let's say, for example, if your audience is more attuned to certain other way of communicating, you might also want to consider adopting certain more meaningful ways for you to adopt. Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Sulhan, for your time. Okay, and your sharing.
Yes.
Okay, and we will definitely like to maybe see more of your works if you can, right? I think this is something that we would like to encourage the students to also do, to continue to learn, to continue to develop themselves and all that. Okay, so goodbye, Mr. Sulhan.